Hi everybody! Today I will be presenting on some things I've learned in Excel throughout our accounting SCE. So to preface, what my Excel spreadsheet is, it tracks monthly income and expenses from 4 rental properties. So to start out, my functions that I'm going to be using from each of the volumes is conditional formatting, sum ifs, and the if function. So conditional formatting came from volume 1, the sum ifs came from volume 2, and the if function came from volume 3. To start off, I'm going to, let's just use January for example. I created some made up dates, made up amounts, and made up properties with the correct description. So each rental property brings in $1,000 of rental income per month, and then they each have an electric bill and occasionally some repairs and maintenance. So to start, one of the things that's, I don't particularly know which volume this came from, but it's a neat Excel function, is to use data validation so you can just quickly pick which property it is. And then also I use that for the description. You can pick a description and so on. So you fill that all in for the month for the appropriate rental property. And then over here you have a monthly summary. And this is where the sum if function comes in. So if I double click here, you can see how it reads the amounts, the property, and the description. So it's saying sum the amount if it is the north property, and you can see that in the properties it's only going to sum the north ones if it's also rental income. So if it's the north property and the description is rental income, it's going to sum it. So that's where the $1,000 comes from. And you can see that this is formula driven, because if I turn this into 900, this is going to change to 900. And the same for south, east, and west. If I change this one to like 850, this over here is going to change to 850, and so on and so forth. And then the conditional formatting comes from this here. It's green because we're at a profit instead of a loss. If it was a loss, it would turn red. And then the sum if comes from this little over here. So it is going to sum the amounts here. It's going to take the income minus the expenses. You can see that here. And then also it's going to sum that same numbers in the summary. So I'm saying that if this number here in cell E29 equals cell M35, it's going to say OK. So we can see that here. And if not, it would give me an error. And we can see that we did this for all of the months. We kept track of our income and expenses for every month. And then June, I went ahead and added some first half property taxes. And that was included in the data validation as well. And then here we can see that we were at loss. So the conditional formatting is red. And then we can see that these were all formula driven here, and then we can change a couple of expenses as well. We're going to say maybe that was 850. It's going to bring us more to a loss. And then we can see here that the if function was used once again, and then the 2023 summary is going to sum all of those workbooks into one. And this whole thing can be very useful because it can be rolled forward year to year. So say we want to do this again next year. The year today minus 1 would be 2024. And then we can just change all of these dates. We can change it to 1/1/24. And then say we increase the rent from 1,000 to 150. And then we can just change it there. And we could just go through, and whenever we want to use it next year, we can just delete everything and then start from scratch. And in a better way to do this, to keep track of our audit trail for 2023 is we can just hit right click there, move or copy, and then we can hit create a copy and hit OK. And we can name this January 2024. And then we can put all of our 2024 data in there. So let's just go ahead and do that. 1050, 1050, and 1050. And let's say that electricity has gone up quite a bit. So we can just create some made up numbers here. 198.67, negative 234.56. They used a lot of electricity. And then also we have repairs and maintenance, just occasional the tenant calls it in and we have to fix it. We can just change some of these here. And these will all update accordingly. And then we can see with our if function that the numbers match, and it makes sure that there's no sort of errors here, because if there's even so much as a space, and like let's say this had a space, it's not going to calculate it correctly. We can see that that changed right there. So that's also good, because then this is going to change to false, and we know that we have a problem because this sum here and this sum here do not work. So if we go ahead and get rid of the space here, it goes back and we can see that we are okay. So yeah, overall this could be very useful from year to year. I know I have used this in my internship. I did something very similar when a client had 2 different rental properties, and they made a worksheet with the different property names. There was 2 property names, and I was able to use the SUMIFs function, and I actually discovered that you can run into little issues even if something is just a little bit off, because one time they spelled the property name wrong, and that's hard to see when you're just looking at it. And so that's why Excel is useful, because you know something is wrong whenever you have it formula driven. Thank you so much for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.